Welcome back to the papameat channel. How you doing? How you doing? Come on in and sit on down because today we're talking about Goosebumps. Yes! My favorite! We talk about Goosebumps all the time on this channel. We've discussed Werewolf of Fever Swamp, Night Living Dummy 3, Stay Out of the Basement. But we haven't touched one of the most pivotal, one of the most important pieces of Goosebumps history, and that's the Haunted Mask, which is by far the scariest, most f***ed up, can't believe they showed that to children kind of thing back in the day. Even when I was rewatching it, it's only an hour long because it's two like TV specials back to back. But even it was just, it's Unhinged. You have a girl who's just bullied to near death, people keeling over laughing, pointing at her. I mean, it is the quintessential origin story of any school But luckily, it's just a little Canadian girl who just wants to scare people back. It's innocently brilliant. I love it so much, but we have to talk about it. We have to go through the specifics of this absolute gold mine. So without further ado, let's talk about the Haunted Mask.
I love pussy, even when it's dirty. That's okay because I keep that mess free with PrettyLitter. Main thing about loving pussy is you want to be able to pet your cats and pussies all you want, but you don't want to smell them. Developed by veterinarians, PrettyLitter has advanced odor control. The crystals absorb odor and moisture, keeping our barn and our home smelling very fresh from all that rancid barn pussy that walks around outside and helps protect my ducks. It's true. PrettyLitter also monitors our cat's health with the color of the litter. It'll change colors based on the pH of the cat's urine, help us look out for any potential issues that may come up. Dark yellow and olive green show normal urine, whereas blue, orange, and red may indicate health risks. All this is helpful and gives peace of mind when keeping up with so many animals, knowing they're happy and healthy. PrettyLitter helps keep tabs on my cat's health and keeps odors way down. Go to prettylitter.com/papameat and use code papameat to save 20% off your first order and get a free cat toy, because pussies love to play. Thank you, PrettyLitter, for sponsoring this video. Back to the video.
Like every Goosebumps special, we start off with a nice little intro from R.L. Stine. They get a nice collection. You see the Haunted Mask at the very beginning, and it goes down the row, and you see all these absolutely pig face men, and then it ends with R.L. Stine, which I like to think that the director of the episode was like, why don't you just put yourself at the end of the line there? I feel like your big ass mole is just as horrifying as any of the other faces up here. And R.L. Stine, as uncharismatic as ever, gives a nice little spiel about how this episode's about heart and loving your family.
There is nothing more powerful than the love of her family and friends.
When it really, I don't think it ever touches on that at all. The episode more so feels it's about self-acceptance, it's about self-love. So even he's just like, I forgot. I don't remember what it was about, but here it is. We open with our main character, Carly Beth, which is probably one of the best child protagonist names I've ever heard. But it starts off with Carly Beth and her friend Sabrina going to the haunted, spooky store near their house. She's just kind of looking at it, which I thought was kind of weird because if you're in a weird, small Canadian town, you'd have to assume that this place has been here forever. She's acting like it's like a weird, like, rave pop-up or something like that. Carly Beth and Sabrina decide to head on over. They don't want to go. We're not going to go into the shop yet, but there is a strange man that looks at them from the window, which sets up a nice, weird face man. It looks like he has hepatitis or genital warts on his face. But Sabrina and Carly Beth are going to a pumpkin patch because it's right before Halloween, and even Sabrina's like, why the f did you wait so long? Carly Beth, she's like, why is it so scary out here? And you're like, okay, this is the kind of character we're dealing with. Chuck and Steve pop out with pumpkin masks on and scare Carly Beth half to death, and this is going to become a reoccurring motif of Carly Beth screaming, and then Chuck and Steve like keeling over laughing as if scaring somebody is the funniest thing to ever happen on this earth. They're just like, boo. She's like, ah! Oh, they're like, ah! Oh my god! Oh my god! So it's an obnoxious thing. If anything, if I was driving by in like my Toyota Paseo, pull over and I'd run out my car and I'd grab him, and dirt. They are assholes, are they not? They're worst.
But they think she's hot.
Well, we just like her because the only way we can show affection is, I don't know, shooting darts at her back or something. Maybe slapping her with a belt. I don't know. We're just kids.
You see that Carly Beth's a big scaredy cat, but she has every right to be though. That's what I don't get is that everyone in this town is scaring her. Carly Beth and Sabrina decide to leave the pumpkin patch. Chuck and Steve probably still giggling off in the goddamn distance, and old Herpy Face looks at the door again, which he's very ominous. He's looking at the door and he has like a very devious, like a black button-up suit and like a red tie. Almost looks like a weird, like a totally out of age My Chemical Romance fan. Carly Beth goes home and we get introduced to Carly Beth's rockin' hot mom. I was bricked up watching it because the mom, I was like, is she single? Which we do find out later that she's married. And I was like, bullshit, dude. They tried to make her a single mom, but they knew that they'd have people rioting outside trying to get to her. Carly Beth's mom is like, I finished your head sculpture in my art class today. It's the most uncanny, like creepiest sculpture of a child's head I've ever seen. Even Carly Beth's like, wow.
It's kind of creepy, Mom.
Thanks, Mom. Why would you do this? And then, of course, she gives a great answer of like,
I mean, why do you want something that looks like me?
It's something that looks like you, silly, because I love you.
well, because I love you, silly. And you're like, okay, well, I guess there's no we're not really having a conversation, are we? This is what we're doing. Carly Beth freaks out because she thinks that she sees the thing smiling at her.
It smiled at me.
Which they really do. They do a good job by building Carly Beth to just be the most insufferable scaredy cat. And you're just like, God damn, dude, can't it go 3 seconds? But then she walks away and the thing smiles. The most uncanny 90s special effects.
We have the thing back there.
Oh yeah. That doesn't do it justice. I feel like in the movie, its eyes are a lot more like black. It's a lot more devious in the actual special. Carly Beth's extremely hot. You know what she kind of seems like? She seems like one of those older moms where she's just like, I used to be what? Like you're sitting in the kitchen and then she's like talking about like Van Halen or some shit. And you're like, oh man, I really would have loved to see Van Halen. She's like, I went to that tour. And you're like, what? No, or are you serious? She's like, yeah. I was a little wild back then too. And you're just like, woo! But no, she decides she's not that cool. She's like, Carly Beth, I made you that duck costume.
Your duck costume is all ready. I put it on your bed.
My duck costume?
And even Carly Beth, I like how Carly Beth's like, what? What?
You saw a duck at the mall, and you said you thought it might be fun to be a duck for Halloween.
You wanted to be a duck, so I just made you a duck. And then Carly Beth, being the goddamn saint she is, she's like, okay, goes down to her room once again. Well, first I'd be kind of scared too. She goes to her room and there's like, it's very suspenseful. She's like reaching for the doorknob, but she hears like, quack, quack. Inside of her room, I'd be like, Mom, whatever. Opens it up. She's assaulted by her little brother, who says the most annoying catchphrase, dude, in this movie. God damn, it's so annoying.
Gotcha, gotcha, gotcha.
Gotcha, gotcha, gotcha. I get so livid when I think about that little. I do like, she's like, get off me, you jerk.
No, are you jerking off me?
I thought she said something like, you're jerking me off. I was like, the way it was phrased up, I was like sitting there and I was like, oh yeah. But then she gets up and there's like a perfectly comedic time bit. She slams as she's slamming it, the kid like perfectly turns to her and it looks like the door just like caves in his face. So you can play that. If you played that and held and held it for a beat longer, you would hear a scream.
Carly Beth, the scaredy cat.
It was him screaming. It'd be so good. It would be so good if that's what happened. But anyways, we cut to the next day. Carly Beth's at school and she's eating lunch and everyone's outside. You always when I was a kid, right? The very first scene, you see the girl pull out the sandwich and the bread is like black and white. When I was a kid, I was always just like, oh, I'm gonna buy that sandwich. That's morbidly obese Hunter being like. But basically, Carly Beth is going up and Chuck and Steve are back. They love to laugh, let me tell you. And they're like, whoa, Carly Beth, we're not gonna bug you anymore. While Carly Beth's looking, she doesn't notice that Steve puts like a handful of worms in her sandwich. She eats it. Okay. She eats it. It takes her 3 full bites to realize that there's this giant worm in her sandwich. And then I feel horror. I'm like looking at it now. I remember when I was a kid, I was like, stupid. Now looking at it, I'm like, this is horrible. An adult needs to intervene immediately. I feel so bad for this little girl. Because then everybody, it's like the most comical, like bombastic, everybody is just keeling over and laughing at her. And she's like trying not to cry. And everyone's like pointing at her. There's even a guy in like, they put like this clown front and center. And even he's like, hey. It's just the most sadistically evil part of the movie. I was like, oh my, no wonder some bad shit's about to go down. You've driven her to this place. Sorry.
She took some really big bites.
Oh my God. I mean, comedically large bites to the point where I'm like, Carly, you could have probably tasted the first bite. Also, fun fact about that, the actress who plays Carly Beth, she actually ate worms for that scene. I thought that was kind of boss. Carly Beth goes back to her room and she goes back up to the duck costume. And it does look bad. It's a bad costume. I would have done the same thing, but it's like one of the, it's bad. It's bad tantrum. She throws a tantrum, but it's like, I hate you. She's talking about herself. I mean, she is ripping up this thing, but she's like, I hate you. I hate you. I'm like, this is some emotionally dark subjects we're going into. Self-hatred. And then now the whole thing too is she starts immediately, her mood changes. She's like, I don't want to get something scary. I don't want to be a duck anymore. She goes into like some weird like wicker basket thing. It was the most 90s shit I've ever seen. It's like some like weird. She's like, counts up like $26 and heads back down to the goddamn goofy hepatitis genital wart store and goes inside, which when I was a kid, dude, I love, man, inside of that store, which also was like, what random town has this badass Halloween store? And the guy who works there is immediately like, what are you doing here?
What are you doing here?
It's like, it's a business, it's a store. I thought I could come inside and buy something. You have 5 minutes. Ah! And he like runs off.
Everything I have is up on the walls. 5 minutes.
And being the little Inspector Gadget she is, she just sneaks in the back. And there's like the most haunting mask ever. Haunted mask. One's green and evil, and that's like the one we know that we're gonna get. But then the other ones are just like fat old men. While she's looking at the mask, the random like herpes guy is like, no, you can't have those.
I said no.
She's like, why? Like, I have money, I'd like to buy one. He's like, they're just too frightening.
They're too frightening.
Which is kind of funny. I'd be like, all right, they're scary, but they're not that scary. She basically grabs the thing. He's like, no! He does like a dive bomb for her, which I was like, what was he gonna do if he's gonna catch her? Strangle her to death. But she just throws the wad of money up in the air, and he's like, Carly Beth steals the mask, runs out, and she's like, wow, I can't believe I have it. She has a moment of clarity, though. She says, well, what the f am I doing stealing this mask from some like weird guy with like hepatitis and all kinds of diseases? She turns back and the guy's just standing at the door and he like turns it to close. First off, I was like, why wouldn't you just open the door and be like, okay, thanks.
Maybe he can't leave the store. Maybe that's like...
He can't leave the store? You need to establish that you can't leave that. He's like... So Carly Beth immediately puts the mask on. It looks creepy as shit. She scares her brother, and then she starts doing things. She's like, the mask won't come off. And finally, it comes off, and she's like, whoa. And he's like,
how'd you change your voice like that? That was the scariest part.
He's like, I barely pitch shifted my voice.
Hey, Noah.
I just sounded like this. He's like, how did you, Houdini?
Ooh, that was the best part. She sees him. Who are you?
Who are you?
Yeah, exactly. He steps onto the hallway, which to be fair, I would probably, that felt like the most organic response in the whole movie. She just steps out and he's just like, who are you? Almost immediately. I'm not gonna dock him on that one. I feel like I'd probably do something very similar. She starts immediately going into like uber edgelord cringe.
That was great. You were really freaked out.
She's like, you're really scared there. He's like, yeah, I thought you were a random stranger in the house breaking into the house. I thought I was gonna die. She's like, I kind of liked it.
But I like it.
And does one of those, and you're like, Immediately following that scene, Carly Beth goes to a mirror, puts the mask back on. This time, you know it's because you can't see her human skin anymore. And the neck and the mask just suctions to her face. She's looking at it. And what is she? What's the next logical step? What would you do? Would you probably be scare your mom? Sure. Why not? Maybe just go trick or treating. No. She takes a random wooden pole in the house, grabs the plaster head of herself, puts a little ribbon around it and runs off. It just starts terrorizing the entire neighborhood. Like, I mean, some real like mentally disturbed shit. She's like walking and she's like, she's worn the mask for a little over a minute. She goes up to Sabrina's house. I want to say too, Sabrina, it's supposed to be a cute cat. That is like a cat mask, dude. That's scary. Can you imagine? I think a good barometer for a lot of masks is if a full-grown man could wear it, would it be scary? Because, you know, they have like Spirit Halloween has like demon masks or whatever. But if I saw a guy wear that, you'd be like, oh, it's just a mask. Imagine a shirtless man. Well, I already made it kind of scary. He has a shirt on. That almost, even if he was wearing Carly Beth's mask, can you?
It feels like taxidermy.
That's what it felt like. Is like it almost felt real. Carly Beth, I killed a cat and made a mask out of it. Sabrina's like, holy shit, that mask is like extremely scary. What's up with the bust you're carrying? Okay, let me give you a Who Wants to Be a Millionaire thing. Does she say A, it's a bust of my face? B, it's a Halloween accessory. C, blank. And D, she says, it's me, it's who I used to be. If you answered D, you might have just won $1 million. I was so shocked when I was watching this and I heard that again.
Oh, it's me. It's who I used to be.
Like if I showed up to work and you were wearing a clown mask and you had a plaster head of yourself, I'm like, oh, cool clown mask, Nick. Gotta ask though, what is that plaster sculpture of your head? And you responded with, it's me. It's who I used to be. I'd be like, and I'd shut my door and I'd lock it is what I would do. But we can give her the benefit of the doubt because it's a kid. Sabrina asks if it's real skin and it tells her to take it off because it's so scary. But Carly Beth just goes into like some extreme, like a tantrum fit. She just like starts spazzing out and throwing herself around almost like a kid at like Toys R Us or some shit. It's Unhinged, and that's where they end the first special. So you're like, oh, okay. But then we cut back to the next episode and she's just like, haha, I'm just playing. Carly Beth runs around now and she's just like screaming at random children. It's very odd. It's just uncomfortable. Watching somebody just scream at a child, not as fun as you'd think it would be. On paper, sounds pretty good. In practice, you're like, okay, what are we doing here? Sabrina and Carly Beth go and they go to their first, finally we get some normality, right? They go up to their first house for trick-or-treating. They knock on the door, trick or treat. A mother and two of her kids show up. And I love the mother's reaction. She's like, oh my God, your mask is horrifying. Carly Beth like goes down and whispers something terrible into the kid's ears. And she's like, the mom's like, hey, don't tell my kid to kill himself on Halloween night. Carly Beth's just like, I'm crazy, and grabs candy and just runs off. If that's the behavior you have at house one, where does the night go from here? If you're bringing that energy to house one, you're not going to be able to keep that up all night. I can tell you that right now. Carly Beth then blames the mask for doing it, and she runs off and continues her extreme rampage. She basically is just like, the mask is making me do it.
This is great!
It pains me to say it. We cut back to Chuck and Steve, who are pirates, which just, it's...
Could it get any more homosexual?
Could it be any more gay, like butt pirates? Like, it's just like, it's one of those things. They're like, yar! Carly Beth peeks around another tree. I forgot to say that earlier. She keeps peeking around trees. Like, she can't just like look like this. She has to be completely sideways and stick her head out. Also, by this time too, the mask is like wet as shit, which I think it looks pretty sick because I'm pretty sure they're trying to say like it's her skin and she's sweating because she's been running around, but it is damp. Carly Beth comes up behind Chuck and Steve and just scares the shit out of them. They're like, whoa, hey, okay, thanks, Carly Beth. And Carly Beth it's almost like an accent. She's like, you should apologize to her.
Apologize to her. Tell Carly Beth you're sorry for every time you scared her. For every time you made people laugh at her.
And they're like, Jesus Christ, fine. And then they look at the plaster head of Carly Beth, and the goddamn plaster head says,
Help me. Please help me.
and Chuck and Steve, they're just like, did that thing just talk? Basically, Chuck and Steve run off, and then Carly Beth, God, it's so cringy. She just does, she has like this like weird, like goblin laugh that she's doing, where she's like, and then she starts howling at the moon, and with her bare hands digs a hole and puts the plaster head of herself in it, into the ground and buries it. Which once again, I want to say for a child's book, this is like some serious like iconography, like some serious like screenplay shit. She has completely rejected her old self, killed it, and has buried it, and is like, this is who I am now. Carly Beth, after that whole thing, she does a little cartwheel, runs off, and she meets up with Sabrina again, and they go home to see all the candy they've collected, which we've only seen Carly Beth go to one house. Carly Beth then tries to take the mask off, but it won't come off, and it's horrifying because Sabrina's like looking around at it, and she's like, your eyes, they're not even your eyes, and she's like, there's no seam.
There's no bottom to this mask. There's no line in between the mask and your skin. There's no place I can reach my hand in.
Which is actually kind of, if I'm claustrophobic enough to where I'd be like, oh my God. Also, they're trying to lift it up and it's like, looks so painful. She's like, with like her sharp ass teeth. Which Carly Beth, yeah, she like looks in the mirror and she's like, those aren't my eyes. It runs off into the street.
They're not my eyes, Sabrina. This isn't me in here. I'm supposed to be mean, but I'm not.
I love that line. I'm supposed to be mean, but I'm not. Sabrina's like, yeah, I don't, what the hell is happening? Mom, get the tranquilizers. We gotta put Carly Beth down. Carly Beth decides to go back to the store and meet the herpes, genital warts ridden man and get some goddamn answers for this crazy mask. Why would you let me steal this? Well, a heavy price. The genital warts man, the herpy face guy, tells her that he cannot remove the mask because it is a real face.
Because it is not a mask. It is a real face.
Bombshell. All the masks we saw earlier are actual human skin that morph onto the face because they want to look beautiful, like beautiful and young again, have a body. And even, I remember when I was a kid, I was like, what? Which is, it's pretty funny. He's like looking at it. And I think that it's also referring to like his face is transforming and it's going to happen to him too. And that's why he has herpes. He's like, I shouldn't have had sex with that Taiwanese woman for such a cheap price. God, that's what you get for having a Groupon in Tijuana. But I like he walks up to the mask and he's like,
I call them the unloved ones.
it's like, that's a pretty creative name, Mr. Hepatitis. He's like, thank you. In a weird turn of events, they all start coming alive and floating, and the old man's like, run! I think they knock him over or something. They do something to him to incapacitate him, even though I feel like he just like swatted down. To be fair, floating heads were coming back and they're like, she runs out of the store, chasing her all over town, basically all through all the trials and tribulations she's been through, and it leads her back to the graveyard where she was before. They're all circling around her. They're like, oh, and she's like, it's not me, it's not me. And then she digs up her face again, and it's a beautiful full character moment where Carly Beth learns to love herself and love the imperfections that is her being a scaredy cat. And that in return, because she loves herself, she's able to take off the mask, which I gotta say, that's a pretty good ending. To resolve your monster, that's fucking awesome. And it actually has a nice moment. Carly Beth goes back home and, you know, they're like all this thing. She goes inside, cries to her mom, Mom, I love you. I was like, yeah, right, dude. I was like, show her where the plaster head's at, dude. And the whole thing basically crescendos to Carly Beth, basically like from the other room. After the whole night she's just had wearing that mask, she just leaves it on the ground for her brother to take. And the kid's like, yeah, sure. He stands out and stands out of the room and he does, gotcha. And he's just wet as shit. And then we get R.L. Stine doing his nice little outro and his parents are scared. And he does, stay spooked, everyone. And it cuts to credits and it's a magical time. It really is probably the best Goosebumps book. I love this one, dude. You got a nice guy, hepatitis, herpes, genital warts ridden face. You have a scaredy cat girl, which justified. She's the only justified school I've ever seen in my life.
Jesus.
What? You're gonna tell me right now you're gonna look at that film and not say that she needed some other kind of fucking retribution. I would say this is probably the most popular one. It's probably the best. I think it's the first special, maybe. I don't know. I could be completely wrong. We can put a little note here. Was it the first one? I don't think it was. But let me tell you something. Practical effects go hard. The mask goes hard. It's just a great romp all around. I absolutely love this special. It makes me wish that people still made this kind of stuff to this day. We should do it. Not like Goosebumps books, but we should make a little fun stuff like this. I feel like you can do it now. Yeah. So I don't know. It's a good Goosebumps romp. We haven't talked about Goosebumps in a while, and god damn it, I love Goosebumps. One day we're gonna have to watch the new series, and I started watching some of it, dude. I kept watching the commercial of it when Justin Long like looks up and he's smiling in the commercial. Oh god, it's so cringe. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe one day we'll watch that, but I just know it's going to be an absolute trash fire. Yeah, I need to make sure that all the kids are relatable and new, and they have iPhones.
Oh my god, we're murder nepo babies.
Okay, and they're worried about likes on Instagram. Can we get that, please? I don't know. This is a great one. I love talking about Goosebumps. We'll have to talk about Goosebumps again soon because I love fun watching this. And until next time, guys, I hope you stay scared and don't wear any masks you get from a guy who has gingivitis. That's the gum stuff. I bet that. Yeah, don't get it. Well, I don't want to say that word because it's demonetizable. Okay, bye everyone. Bye. Bye. Leave. Okay.
Oh my god, look behind you.
Chuck scares Steve, and then Steve scares Chuck. I don't know. One of the guys, Chuck or Steve, scares Steve or Chuck. I don't know what the fuck. One of them is that. I don't know.